Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me just fine. I'm Chris with Pro Photo. Welcome to another one of our Share the Light image critiques. This time, I'm super excited to be hanging out with Lindsay Adler. Of course, you know that's who we're here hanging out with because that's what the name of the Share the Light image critique is of. So with that being said, I'm going to bring in my buddy, Lindsay. What's up?
You're bringing in me and then the little doggy over here barking as well, apparently. So if you hear
he's back.
in the background,
The wet pup is back.
I feel like you and I are like, not to insult you, but good and evil right now. Looking at like I got this eye keep glowing, and you look like it's like the white hat, black hat in the movies.
I tell people all the time that the black hides my insecurities. And since I'm so filled with them, I like to make sure that I'm all black all the time.
or just like you're from New York where it's all black, everything all the time.
Of course, it's the uniform. I when I put up my V flat earlier to do this, I looked, I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is like, it's, and so like I went and turned my overhead light like all the way up. I'm like, I've got to get some separation. This is not good. So, but hi, how's it going? How are you?
I'm great. I have been busy shooting a lot, which I am super thankful for. Like things are back up in full swing. And I did a little bit of travel and now I am back in New York for a few days, although it's kind of rainy and dreary. But yeah, how about you? What are you up to?
This pro photo and up, just doing cool lighting stuff, talking, teaching, having a good time.
You produce so much stuff. Like I feel like I do, and then I look at you and I'm like, wow. I
just feel bad that people have to look at me.
It's horrible.
Well, I just know, like when we're at like a show or something, like the people are like, "Oh, I feel like I know you." I'm like, I'm sorry that's what you know me from, because I'm like, "Hoo ha ha ha."
We have known each other for a long time now.
Very long time. Long time. It's been awesome.
Decade, but I don't like at least a decade.
Probably, yeah.
I've finally gotten to that age where I talk about now multiple decades of knowing people, and I'm like, oof.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I hit 40 next year. I'm becoming an old white guy. So that's awesome.
I mean, I feel like the white guy was the same, and now this is old.
So again, thank you for doing the image critique with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to bring this up just so people can see it. But like, if you want to like jump in on any of the other like Share the Light things that we do, like that's the link down. I always want to point there because that's where my screen is, but I know it's over there. So like down there is where you can go and do the Share Light thing. Lindsay's got some posts up there, which are really rad. A lot of her gel work, which I've talked to her about in the past before, that I'm always jealous of. And yeah, so if you want to check out Share the Light, go there and check that out. But that being said, so again, back to some of your gel stuff. So what I knew you more from, like, and you still do it. It's like your icon look. You're super hard light. I love it. It's edgy. It's punchy. It's got like this incredible feel to it. But like, what got you into shooting like color and then just mastering like all this gel work and stuff?
I think there's a couple of things. So first and foremost, I remember when I was trying to figure out my style, and my dog is agreeing with it.
He's figuring out his style.
When I was figuring out my style, what I did is I shot a lot of everything, and I remember. Yep, he remembers it. When I set out my images in front of myself to try to figure out like what I thought was really me as an artist, color was a common element. Like the ones that were super saturated, bold, purposeful light, grabbed your attention, like just hyper saturated colors. Those are the ones where like I feel like there's a voice here. I feel like there's an individual style. And then the other side of it is, for the longest time, there was a lot of photo education that existed out there that was about soft light, flattering portraiture, which is great because that's the bread and butter for most people. But when I was trying to figure out hard light and gels, I mean, it might have existed, but I couldn't find it. And so when I figured out how to craft hard light and when I figured out how to achieve super saturated gels, I was like, I felt like I actually discovered something and I wanted to share that. So that's kind of what pushed me as well. It's like, I don't think there's enough sharing in this part. And so, I mean, I think that fits Share the Light perfectly is, these sorts of things are resources that didn't exist. And so these things stayed a mystery. And so I was decades into, 15 years into my photo career when I really felt like I mastered gels and hard light.
Yeah, it's funny too because hard light is soft light's beautiful, and you can do some really really beautiful stuff with soft light. But there's just something about hard light that just like the way it like kisses skin tones, and just like the way like as long as you're controlling it. And I think that's the thing that scares people is that they with a soft light you can kind of just put it somewhere and it's there and it looks nice. But I tell people a lot of times with hard light, like it's more about looking where the shadows are than necessarily where the light is.
For sure.
But like once you start paying attention to that, once you grasp the idea of like, hey, like let's watch your shadows a little bit more than you watch your light, and it starts to, there's just something about hard light that's incredible. And then to like marry it with like just this pop and punch of color is, I love it. And I love all, I've told you this in the past. I love all the stuff that you're doing. So
thank you. I heard a quote the other day that I loved because, and not, this isn't always true, but I think this is really true of my style, is the idea of using light as a way to punch through darkness. And when you use concentrated hard light, like grids or Fresnel or things like that, like I really do feel like it. You start off with a blank canvas of the darkness, and rather than blanketing it in one big soft light, you go, okay, well, what little pockets of hard light can I punch through? I love that. That really, totally. It doesn't explain all light for sure, but it explains a lot of how I think.
Yeah. And I think it makes a ton of sense too, because if you think about, like, again, starting from the dark, think a blank canvas, like every little piece that you add, like just adds to the story and puts the light right where you want it. So it's beautiful stuff. So, let's look at some images of all these. We had, so for everyone to know, we had a bunch of submissions. We had 5 picks, and then we have a winner, and we'll talk about all that stuff. So let's bring up the first one, which is from the US, Paula Watts. Really cool image. I'm going to try to rearrange us so we're not blocking it. There we go. But what do you think, Lindsay?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I like this image is I feel like it's cheating because it's right up my alley. It's exactly the things I'm attracted to. It's clean, it's bold, it's graphic, it's great color theory. And I think one of the reasons I was attracted to this image so much is that the color that was chosen, it was very clearly handled in a way that was purposeful, rather than let me just throw some gels here, or let me just match whatever shirt to whatever makeup. Like this is very intentionally done. The other reason I liked it is an unconventional use of colored light. This is something that I've done before for some album covers and beauty campaigns, but it's almost looking like you painted with makeup and that's the color, but it's not. And it's actually punching light through gel. So it's pointing a light through a gel that's held out in front rather than putting a gel on the light. So it's another way for people to think. Really clean. Every aspect the photographer thought about and made an effort to control. So I love that.
Yeah, I love I love the transition from the red to the yellow, and the yellow or orange it's just really good control. Like to have that nice little feathering, that little transition between the skin tone to the red looks natural, but also kind of adds this level of technique to it, which is really, really cool. And then the lighting matches kind of the attitude the subject's giving off. I think it's really, really cool. And I always love kind of that white on white look. So,
and I also wanted to compliment the creator on that subtle highlight on the side of the face and the jawline. Just that little extra separation makes all the difference with the polish. Like it makes it look that much more controlled. So, I mean, I think the reason I put this is if this were in my portfolio, I'd be proud to have it. So how is that not? How's that not something I want to look at?
Yeah, exactly. You did mention it, and I want, just because I think it's cool to learn things. You said something earlier before we were live about something you would do with the ears, not necessarily for this photo, but for other photos. Do you want to share that technique? I
actually had I had very tiny critiques for this because I said I really like it. One of the things I often find is when I have a heavily backlit image where there's a pure white with light coming through, what ends up happening is, if you guys have probably all seen this, when the ears are glowing yellow or orange or kind of red because the light is passing through them. So what you're actually seeing is like the blood and cartilage being backlit. In this image, miraculously, it's not bothersome because the gel that's used on the head actually matches the color of the ears. But one of the things that we will do is if we're creating a beauty image where this becomes really distracting and the person's hair is pulled back, like you can't hide hair behind it, is we'll actually take gaff tape and we'll put gaffer's tape behind the ear to block the light from going through. So again, I don't think it messes with this image, but something I would consider. One kind of small critique, I probably would pull down and liquefy a little bit of the bump of the hair on the right. Like just everything else is so smooth and even. I would probably just liquefy that down a little. And then the only other critique I had is because this subject is straight on, right? Anytime something is straight on, it's meant to be symmetrical. Our brains are actually trained to look for patterns and breaks in patterns. And part of that pattern is symmetry. Like when we know something's straight on, it should match from left to right. Now, thankfully, you're winking and you're making it asymmetrical, but the shoulders, I'm just telling you, if this were my photo, I would liquefy so that the shoulders are even. The fact that the bottom of the frame is not the same from side to side, I look around the image and everything is beautiful and controlled, and I go, it's a little off. So, not saying to scrap the image, just I would liquefy it if I were you, or however you want to do it. Rotate the image a little, push it down, something like that, because I think this is killer.
Yeah, that's very interesting critique too, because one, I never even looked at the shoulder. Like my brain didn't go there, and maybe I was just caught up in the color and stuff like that. And then the tape thing, I would have never ever in the world thought to do something like that. So
yeah, I have a lot of beauty shots where it's like high key and I'll put like a softbox behind my subject and then everything is skin tone and then bright red ears and it just kills it.
Oh, and just so people can see, we have the lighting diagram for it too. And just like what you're talking about, some flags on the side to shape the light a little bit more and to keep a little bit of excess light from the background lights off, and then shooting through the gels away from the light. Very cool. Yeah.
And then, by the way, if anyone is trying this, like you can also, like what I often do is I have, let's say it's an assistant, but if you don't have an assistant, it can just be a makeup artist or like somebody on set, because clearly there's a makeup artist for this shot. Anyone, you can actually have them hold it. And the closer that you bring the gels to the subject's face, the more abrupt the lines of that color will be. And the further away it is, the more diffused and gradual the gradations will be between the colors or between the edge of the gel and the skin tone.
That's really, really cool. Nice. Let's go to Benjamin Hauschild. I hope I said that correct, Benjamin. There's a chance that I'm going to butcher every single one of y'all's names today. So it's just going to be what it is. And I apologize profusely. But this is a very cool image.
Oh, man. Okay. So the reason I love this image is because I tried something like this recently. And it's so hard to get because chances are what the person is doing is they have their head flipped over, right? And then their hair is down over their head, and then they flip it up. But the reason it's so hard is to get everything to come into place. Because when people are flipping their hair back, a lot of times what they're doing is they're pulling their chin in. So you get a double chin, or you get really weird body language, or the shoulders or the arms, or maybe the hair doesn't flip hard enough. And then when they hit it, maybe the light isn't quite falling in the right place. Like there's just so many variables. So when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, I know that's hard. And I wanted to give it a little bit of applause for doing that. Plus, knowing to have, fast enough flash duration to freeze everything or to appear to freeze everything in this shot. And then also, being able to have the right gear, the right settings for the gear to get the fast enough recycle time to be able to catch it just where you want, or you guess the timing really well. So like, no matter how you did it, it's a hard shot and you did it.
It's very, very cool stuff. Yeah, I can only imagine, like, because that's such a big movement to try to like to catch all that and not go this way or that way and have the light fall weird and stuff like that. I never knew about most people do the chin down thing whenever they do the hair flip up. Usually when I do my hair flip, I'm asked to stop because I don't have any hair. But yeah, it's a very, very cool image. I love the colors. I wish maybe they were like a little more saturated. Maybe just like a little bit more saturated, especially on the yellow side. But it's a very cool shot. Like
maybe a little deeper.
I get that. Yeah, exactly. And just so people to see some behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, and by the way, really nice job in your behind the scenes. I wanted to add something just I think people would appreciate. So the more, like when you shoot a lot, one of the things you realize if you're trying to do this for a living is that you realize that a lot of time what pays is the boring stuff. Like a lot of times what pays are the headshots or it's the very basic portraits with soft light. And so, you know, one of the struggles that I think that we photographers that love light run into is when we do the really creative light, it's like, well, what is the market for it? But because I have built a style, you know, as a calling card for myself around this aesthetic, I'm actually hired to shoot this kind of stuff all the time. And this isn't meant to be a brag. What I wanted to share with you guys is if you develop an aesthetic that people see over and over and again in your work, you become the expert. And so if somebody needs that aesthetic, they go to you to execute it. And so I shot an image very similar in concept, you know, gels and hair flip and whatnot. I think it was about 3 weeks ago, and it was for a healthcare campaign. And that doesn't make any sense, right? But the reason is they wanted to create imagery that was really eye-catching. And kind of the catchphrase is like, every person is a work of art. And they wanted to do something different. And their whole concept, their whole inspiration around the campaign was gels. And so if they wanted gels, they went and looked for the experts. So I just want to put that out there for, you know, those of you who are like, yeah, you know, I like this, but, you know, maybe there aren't as many, you know, clients or people interested. When you become the expert, like you attract those people, which I think is the goal of having a style.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't put enough stock into their personal work, or they make their personal work the same as like what they're doing for like their bread and butter.
Yeah,
for right
sure,
now,
exactly.
you know, everybody, like you said, everybody has to do the bread and butter stuff to pay the bills, but you know, your personal stuff should be what you want to shoot.
Yeah.
Like you have plenty of material from your bread and butter to show more bread and butter stuff. So like when you take time to shoot for yourself, like shoot exactly what you want to shoot and experiment with stuff and have fun. Like it should be a time of learning and developing your style. So
yeah. And I wanted to add one more critique just because I you know, this is a critique. So, I basically just complimented the crap out of it because it's well done. I do think maybe this is a thing you could do in post is lighten up the curve of the back there or make that a little more saturated because we love negative space and curve, especially here, you know, you see the curve of her body and where the arm is positioned, it's just a little bit obscuring it and the hair is probably darkening it a little bit. So I would lighten up that curve a little bit and you know, listen, I know that getting the pose right is difficult, but maybe even a little more space could have been helpful. Still very successful photo.
Yeah, very, very cool. So let's move on to, oh, that's the BTS. This is from Philipp Oberhuber. Again, Philip, if I butchered it, sorry, but thank you for your submission. This is a very cool image.
Love it. So what struck me about this photo is the color theory and the shutter drag. I really like the combination of the warm, cold contrast. So when there's a gel in the foreground that's cool and a gel in the background that's warm, or vice versa, because that's another way to create pop and contrast. But what I can tell that the photographer did is they used a slower shutter speed. And in that slower shutter speed, either the subject moved or the camera moved, which created a little blurs around the edge of the subject. You kind of see it in the feathering of the hair and on the left-hand side of the hair and face. And I find that when you do that, what that means is it's a slower shutter speed. So some of the modeling light, a lot of times of the gels or the strobes, or if you have a constant light in the scene, they start to register. And so when you move the camera over that slow shutter speed, it creates this blur, which to me gives a photo a little bit more life. It gives it a little bit more energy. It gives it motion. It's a sense of capturing an active moment in time versus someone just posing for the camera, which I think you get from this photo.
Yes. Yeah, and again, like you said, I think, you know, the teal and orange is always a beautiful combination. You see it in, you know, so much in cinema. Yeah. So great job with your contrasting colors. Really, really nice. The thing, and we both talked about this, Lindsay. And my guess is, so like if we look at the lighting diagram here, we see two light sources. But if we look at the actual final image, there is a third one right here. And it could be that, you know, you're dragging the shutter. Maybe there is a window in the studio that was letting light in. It could have been something as simple as the makeup vanity or some other, maybe a door was open and the light was on in another room and it infiltrated kind of that image. I would just like pay a little bit more attention to that, because this is white light, and once you start kind of like the white light's always going to take over. I'm saying things that I'm sure Lindsay is going to say, but the white light's always going to take over the color. And if this light's going to be there, or if there was another light used that maybe was left off the lighting diagram, I just wish this was a color. Like I wish this wasn't giving away those skin tones again. So it feels accidental.
Yeah. And so speaking of accidental, your color theory clearly on purpose, the saturation clearly on purpose. I like even the pose of the subject. I can't help it. I'm a fashion and beauty photographer. In fact, a majority of what I get paid to do is in the beauty realm. And the hair does look a little accidental. My point is I would either go crazier, where like it's actually blowing, or a little bit more like unrehearsed, like even further than that, or I would clean it up a little bit. It's like just a little bit in between the two. And I think that would have taken it up like 2 notches in my brain, because it would have just looked that much more on purpose and controlled. So maybe, for example, on the left-hand side, where the hair is on the shoulder, if that were swept back and you could more cleanly see the edge of her face, I think that would be more pleasing to the eye. But I still think the shot's really strong.
It's a very, very cool shot. And again, love the color. And again, lighting diagram for anyone who hasn't seen it so far. Now, let's talk about Alessandro Biehl. And Alessandro, again, what's your name? Many apologies, but very cool shot.
You're so cute. Yeah, I thought that one of the important things about your use of color is to be purposeful about it. So what is that color trying to say or make you feel? And so obviously warm colors have a very different emotional reaction to cool colors and different, whatever color palette you choose. And so here, going with an analogous color scheme in those kind of blues, almost purples, it is very calming and very peaceful. And the subject's expression and body language reflect that. And so I think you did a nice job in understanding how color affects mood and then pulling that through the entirety of the image. I thought that the way that you use light was really interesting. Do you mind flipping to the behind the scenes shot? Just like
yeah, 100%.
So what I thought was really cool is you basically took the light on the left, the umbrella, as the overall light, and then used that to put the blue on the face. But then you took another harder light from behind that was white light to give it kind of a rim or a kiss. So when you go back to the original photo, you kind of see that going on. So you see the blue that really wraps around the face, but then the white that you have as a rim there kind of washes it out a little bit. And I thought that was an interesting approach. Like I've done that, but not as often. And so I appreciated that. I had a couple critiques, nothing too major. I know that this is picky, don't hate me, but I couldn't help, I don't love the fingers being cropped off there. I know it's like, it doesn't, the photo's still a strong photo. But the fingers being cropped off, it's like such a smooth, quiet picture. And so instead, what I would have preferred is a placement of the hands in some way that continued you through the frame. But what that does is you go to his face, you follow the hand, and then you exit the frame. It leaves you, and it doesn't allow you to come back in. So I do think a different placement of that hand, or the hands in general, could have encouraged me to continue to look at it. Similarly, I felt drawn to the bottom right-hand corner in that negative space there. And I think he's posed on maybe a V flat or a table. I can't quite tell.
It looks like maybe an apple box.
Oh, is it? Maybe a dark apple box?
Oh, yeah. Like if you kind of look right here, you can see like the handle where I think that's might be what that is.
So I would have preferred if it extended to the edge of the frame so that it was like a little bit more stable, because I got caught in that negative space, and that you could do that in Photoshop. If an apple box is only so big, I totally get that. So those would be my improvements, but I think it's strong overall. Yeah, and by the way, I only picked photos I liked. So if it's in here, it's because I like it.
I love the like the gradation too, from kind of that whiter light on the left side and to that purple light. Like the transitions are really, really nice. Like it's a good control of the light.
Did the behind the scenes show that there was a gel on the light on the right hand side? Because there'd have to be. Oh, maybe you can't add gels.
Yeah, maybe yeah. There's just not a gel added, but yeah, there has to be some sort of a purple gel.
Purple, yeah.
Or maybe, yeah, I guess either purple or something to kind of help turn that blue to more of a purple, maybe like a pink or a red gel or something. I don't know if that would help that much.
Or if you notice, it's bounced against a wall. Literally, if they had like pink or purple wall, it would have done the same thing. Not that I think that's what happened, but just as a note, you can't just bounce light off of any surface. If it is a painted surface or a colored surface, it'll affect the color of the light.
Yeah, and that's something good to know too for people not necessarily doing gel photography, but like if you're an event photographer and you're in a place with a brown roof, like well, your bouncing's going to be brown. So,
well,
very cool.
I even run into that in my own space, and I love my studio, but I have these kind of yellowish wood floors, and if I don't control my light, if I just throw it up into a corner, sometimes when it bounces around, you'll notice my white balance, it looks way warmer than it should be. And that's because my giant reflective yellow floors.
Good tip. Really good tip.
Pretend it's on purpose and go for warmth.
It was intentional. Of course. I add yellow to everything, of course. Very, very cool. Great shot, Alessandro. Very, very cool shot. And then it's that time of season for something a little spookier anyway.
Season. Yes.
Emil Stach is what I'm going with. It feels right. So that's where we're going to live with it. Emil, from, did I say Greenland? Holy moly.
I saw that too and was like, is that for real?
That's awesome. It makes me think of, it's such a, like, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I don't know if it's a cult movie or whatever. It's called like Out Cold. It's like a Zach Galifianakis thing. But in the movie, someone says like Greenland is covered in Iceland and Iceland is very nice or something like that. So anytime I hear Greenland, I say that in my brain. So very, very cool stuff. But Emil, this is a really cool shot. Really cool shot.
I really liked that you took a very, no insult to your house, but a very ordinary space, right? It's and you made it interesting because a lot of photographers and myself included, you see the same space over and over again. And you're like, I wish I could shoot someplace cool. But if you control light and create a story, like you can make any place cool. And I mean, that's what I loved about what you did is you took the ordinary and made it extraordinary.
Very much so. The feeling you did a really good job with the colors as far as like the blue does a great job of kind of giving that cold feeling, the smoke in the image, the specks, which I guess maybe you're supposed to feel like snow or something like that. I'm not sure. Or maybe they're just supposed to be some sort of visual interest is really, really cool. And then just
upside down. You watch Stranger Things?
I haven't watched Stranger Things. My brother's, and I'm such an 80s geek, and my brother's like, you would love it. And I just haven't done it. Yeah, I know.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'm just like, listen, I feel like you'd be a Stranger Things guy. You got it. Okay. On your to-do list.
I'm pretty strange. But it's a really cool shot. And I love the colors. I think that something with me with gels, I love transitions. Like I love a nice clean transition. And I love the way the light on the door transitions. The spooky hand I could do without just because that kind of stuff scares me and I don't like to be scared. So, but very, very.
No. So a couple of things. My significant other, Chris Knight, did a shot that was kind of similar to this. And it doesn't mean I don't think that you even saw his. It's just I like that there's certain things in pop culture that we share a similar language. So, the kids coming out at night and the monster behind the door, I appreciated that. And he also did some warm, cool contrast. Looking at this, one of the things, and I'm cheating because I've seen his, so you might want to pop over to his Instagram to see it. Oh, no, that wasn't for you. I meant for them.
Oh, that was for people in general. Gotcha.
Yeah. He did one. And what I think was a strong element that, again, I like this, but could make it stronger is he did have some foreground elements that were purposeful to the story. So for example, he had like tentacles coming in the door, and then there were like little hints of tentacles in the corners. Because right now, unless you happen to be able to tell, I can't tell what's in the front left or front right.
Talking about right here?
Yeah.
It almost kind of looks like a voodoo doll or a picture of somebody's face or something like that. But it's very blurry.
So my point is not that you need a ton, but it could be interesting to have some more storytelling elements, like something in the foreground that maybe revealed something about the kid, or something, maybe it's another like creepy element, like, oh, did they not realize that the monster's already in the house? Like just little additional elements for depth, I think would be strong. And then in post, the reflection on the oven, I would take down just a little bit. Just because it's an equal luminosity value or brightness value as the wall next to them, as the girl's shirt, as like it's brighter than some of those areas. So I definitely look at the hand, I definitely look at the kids, but then I got drawn over to the oven. So I would just darken it down a little.
Very, very cool stuff. And just for people to see the behind the scenes, because I think people love that kind of stuff. Just 2 lights, pretty simple.
Amazing.
And it's amazing what you can do with just a little bit. You don't have to have a whole bunch. I mean, he did a really good job lighting the whole scene. Blue, obviously, from looking at the image from the right, and red from behind the door with the left. So very, very well done, Emil.
Yeah, I want to know. I mean, I think the hand's fake, but I think it would be kind of fun if you just secretly had that hand and then would like leave it around and freak out your kids.
Yeah, 100%. Just a practical hand, just places.
I could totally see you doing that.
My kids would probably think it's funny, and then they would probably like put it in my bed or something like that. So
I feel like you would do like some like little practical jokes around the house.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, that's a given. That's a given.
I feel like you also would like puns. You said something at the beginning where you were jealous, and I was like, oh, jealous. No. Like I was waiting for you to fall in love with puns.
I'm a punny guy, and a lot of dad jokes, and I'm pretty sure they're funny, and I'm pretty sure everyone else thinks they're funny. They just act like they're not.
Well, what amused me is as I've gotten, older, more towards parent age, I used to be like, oh God, parents are so uncool with all these jokes, and now I realize, no, it's because they like to watch the kids squirm. They like the funny part is seeing the kids uncomfortable, not the thing that you even say or do. I never got that, and now I get it.
And or like the look on my wife's face when she's like, "Oh, come on!" I'm like, "It was good. It was worth it."
Exactly.
So cool. Let's talk about the winners, what they want, and then we'll look at some of the questions and answer some stuff for people. So, our winner. So let's talk about what you're going to win, and then we'll announce the winner. So the first place winner is going to get a B10X. Pretty sick. But all the other 4 who have also been chosen are going to get $500 in whatever light shaping tools you want. So you can just 500 USD, so US dollars, so it's based off of. So you pick whatever you want, up to 500 bones, and that's pretty sick. And then, but the winner's going to get the B10, or not. The winner's going to get the B10X. I want to make sure I said X and not B10, the new boy, and then light shaping tools for the rest. So with that being said, Paula Watts up here at the top. Oh, right there. You're the winner. Winner, chicken dinner. So you get a B10X. All of you will be reached out to via email from our team here at ProPhoto. So, but congratulations, Paula, for this fantastic piece of work.
Yeah,
lovely.
I had trouble critiquing it because it's awesome.
Yes, very, very cool.
Okay.
So let's see. Let's look at some Q&A stuff and just some comments and say hey to everybody. First and foremost, Ab Cisse says, "What's up to you and I?" What's up, Ab?
Hi,
my man. Good to see you, buddy. Anna loves you, Lindsay. Joseph, thank you. And then I guess we're back at this thing because we were talking about the asymmetry, but Paul said the asymmetry. Oh, yeah, as dynamic quality of this image. Mm-hmm. Very cool, Paul. But someone had a question.
I think it works the way it is, and I think they could push it even more asymmetrical, and it could be cool. Yeah.
I think I know somebody else had a question about the yellow in here too, so it's kind of good that we landed right here. Right. So let me find this. So someone was asking, is the yellow part of the makeup or is it gels?
It is gels. Because if you look at their behind the scenes, you can see they actually stacked 2 gels. So my guess is that they have like, a deeper orange or a red, and then the yellow is stacked underneath it. So what you see is like basically the gels, instead of lining them up perfectly, they shifted so that the yellow was on the bottom more. And then that's what hit the subject.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I once did editorial for, I think it was El Indonesia, but my version, it was the same idea, but it was low key. And that was one of the things I would do, is I would stack multiple gels, and then where they were misaligned, you would see multiple colors. So, let's say you take, you have a red here and you have a blue here, but then you overlap them and you're getting a different gradation like in the middle. So I recommend playing around with this. It's super fun.
Very, very cool. Oh, Paula said, thank you so much. She said it was an honor.
Oh, I'm glad you're here.
So very, very cool stuff, Paula. We're thank you all for, being a part of this. Bastion also said early, he says, Lindsay the Queen, I'm ready to turn into a sponge and absorb everything the master is going to teach. So
you are so funny. Thanks,
the Queen has spoke.
Oh, wow.
But this is a lot of fun. I think people did a really jam up job. I think those are the questions that we have. I think most people are just excited to hear what you had to say about some of the image stuff, the critiques, and learn as much as they can. But this was a lot of fun. For anybody, let's back this bad boy out. So it's just us again. So for anybody who wants to follow you, or this is silly, but how do people find you? How do people learn from you? All this good stuff.
Yeah. So I post all the time and update with new work on my Instagram. So it's Lindsay Adler _photo. So if you want to see my new work and that's what you're into, great. But if you'd like to take some of my tutorials, like I have a class called The Magic of Gels that is all about achieving super saturated color with gels and placing the colors where you want it to be. And you can find that and many other tutorials at learnwithlindsay.com.
Very, very cool stuff. So check her out, Lindsay Adler _photo on Instagram, and then her website with all of her educational stuff is really awesome. Thank you so much for kicking it with us. This is a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
I was up hanging out with you. So, but thank you for everyone who submitted. If you want to be a part of any of the Share Light stuff, again, here, let me click this bad boy so you know where all this stuff is going on. Down there, I did it correct this time. Lindsay, and then the link right there. Perfect.
Gotcha.
But again, Lindsay, thank you so much. It was a blast.
It was my pleasure. Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it. Bye, everybody. Peace out.